When Eudora Moore did the exhibition, she borrowed 42 objects from the Appalachian Museum at Berea College. Objects are, in a sense, almost like a recording. They've recorded the motions and the thoughts of the maker. The Appalachian Museum closed in 1998. Now we primarily use the collection for artifact encounters, where students think about Appalachian life based on what they find in the object.
Berea College was founded in 1855 by the Reverend John G. Fee, who was an ardent abolitionist and founded Berea to provide education for freed slaves. He wanted to create an education environment where blacks and whites could be educated together.
But because of the States Today law, we were segregated in 1910 for the first time, desegregated in 1950, but it was a very slow desegregation. Now, 40% of our students are students of color. Berea's history has always been about inclusion and lifting up democracy, lifting up the promises of America.
Berea College provides a tuition-free education for all its students, what we refer to here on campus as the Tuition Promise Scholarship. So every student who comes to Berea comes here tuition-free. They also have the opportunity to work in our labor program, making craft, which is then sold to bring in revenue to the college.
At one point in time, there were 10, 12 full-time furniture makers out on the shop floor. Maybe 40 or 50 students worked within the industries here. They made a large amount of furniture, and that furniture was shipped around the country. The shop has transitioned to making smaller items, craft items, and the reason for that shift was to allowing the students to make more of the work themselves.
This program has been around for 127 years. We also have some real historic products that are still in our catalog. That's great, but it can also lead you to rest on your laurels a little bit. I'd been involved in conversations about how we could move the student craft program forward in a way that would resonate more soundly with students.
When I received an email, I'd never even heard of Berea College, but I discovered that Berea was the first college in the South to be integrated. So I was kind of blown away by the history, and I immediately wanted to kind of throw myself into the project. I grew up on the south side of Chicago. We weren't well off by any means. My mom always told me that I could be anything I wanted in the world, and that just kind of propelled me.
Stephen is the perfect person for this because of how he thinks about design ideas in a global way.
I like to say that design is a Western concept. What I realized traveling around the world, people have been making things for generations, and it's so tied to their communities, their societies, their ways of living. And design has always been expressed through the ages by what we make with our hands. And so the Berea project we called Crafting Diversity was born. I'm here to explore new ideas. So I started to think about how we could engage the students in the creative process.
I mean, it's the same as that one, like...
So that they could be making something that then they could imagine being part of their everyday lives. What this was about for me is to use the hand as a kind of signature, right? So everyone's got different fingerprints.
When Stephen first came, we had been in a craft program for 127 years. We had never had a person of color in a leadership position.
They're a little too polka dotty for your taste, though.
Yeah.
So for our students to be able to see someone who looks like them succeeding at the highest level is really important.
My name is Joseph Opele. I'm originally from Lagos, Nigeria, but I live with my family in Queens, New York. I'm a technology and applied design major, and I've always worked with wood. This design, it's a prototype, so it's something new. I'm still learning more about it, working with Mr. Steve. Our goal for the design is to make it well known nationwide.
The Berea basket, of course, this is the classic of Berea College, was a bit of an inspiration for our new basket. What I was trying to achieve is to take that structure, that repetitive structure, and think about it as almost a small industrial part that the students could learn. We can make different sizes, different shapes, you know, we can
in different
explore
colors.
Different colors, right. The basket, for me, is a kind of structural model. It's architecture at a very small scale.
I think I like the color, but I would prefer like 3 colors.
It's missing a little bit of restraint, right?
Right.
But I think having the possibilities is what I really like about the project.
My name is Em Croft. I am a senior from Carborough, North Carolina. I designed this baby blanket. It's inspired by water. The grays and the blues together remind me of, you know, a mountain stream. Being a member of the LGBTQ community, it's really, really exciting for me to be able to be in a space at Berea where that identity is not only accepted, but supported, and that I get to express that through the creation of this blanket. Just a dream come true for me, having a design that I made. Not just people liked it, but people want to buy it. People want me to put it out into the world. It's the direction we're trying to move the studio in, a commitment to diversity and inclusivity.
Because it's kind of a forgotten craft, broom craft, it hasn't changed much. I made a broom when I was 14 years old, still got it hanging on the wall of my original shop. I always tell my students they should keep the first one they make to do the very same reason.
My name's Mary Beth Mullen. I'm a political science major with a history minor. I decided to work in broomcraft at Berea College because I wanted to do something with my hands because I've always loved making crafts. When I say that I work at broomcraft, they think of like the plastic brooms that you get at the store. And it's just really interesting to be able to create something beautiful out of just a household item. One of my favorite brooms to make, because I can do it all by myself, is a whisk broom. You have to hold the string so tight, but I love all the small pieces that go into it that make it just so different. A lot of it's feel and just practice, practice, practice.
The idea that there's a place in a culture still making brooms, that kind of blew me away. And now we're working on a new concept, which we're lovingly calling Broom Thing.
So Stephen came in, and of course, he's a big city designer. No offense to him. We do the different colors and everything, but it's kind of the same stuff we've done for 80 to 100 years.
Is this enough? Can we?
Yeah, we can fluff that.
Let's fluff
And Stephen wants to push the limits and see how far the medium can take us.
So, you know, Broom Thing came out of this concept of, is that a lot of people buy these brooms as decorative objects.
Yeah, but they also like the functionality too.
Right. I guess I've always been attracted to natural materials, materials that have an inherent warmth and that are malleable. And so broomcorn is a really good example.
Broomcorn is a plant. It's about 15 foot tall. There's about 50 plants to one kitchen broom.
What do you call this machine?
This is a broom winder. This particular one was made by the Baltimore Broom Company in probably the 70s. They long went out of business.
So that's the broom handle stuck in there.
Broom handle stuck in there, the wire's attached, and then it's holding tension as I feed it on here. Under the tension of the wire, it makes it poof out.
Right.
What I like to do is give it a final spin to get our maximum poofage. Patented word, poofage.
That's beautiful. Stepping into Berea College, there's just such a wealth of knowledge and tradition to build upon that it was very easy for me to find inspiration. It's amazing. So we have 26 of these, is that right, Chris?
26.
26 of these to make a sphere. And this is pretty close to my original sketch.
Close.
Yeah. I always wanted something to kind of move us away from the perception of this as brooms.
Yeah, and I've done some wild stuff, but this is definitely wilder.
Yeah. Lower, eat,
back, up.
And it's a gentle process. Whoops.
Oh.
That's the opposite of gentle.
Yeah, it's true,
Yeah.
it's true.
Stephen has brought us the idea that we can be better and that our students are capable of creating objects that are the finest craft. And everyone who works here and the students who attend, their voice is going to be heard. Their voice matters in the world.